Hi, champ. Welcome to another episode of Bloom with moi, Frances. Today, I'm going to be talking about life is a bee. This is actually a true life story. Not mine, but someone else's. It happened. Well, life they say is full of difficulties. Some say it's an itch starting with the letter word B and can bite you where you least expect it. And others say if life gives you lemons, make lemonade out of it. This life really is a mystery, or isn't it? The things we hear and see every day are unbelievable. Well, some are. It gets one wondering what life has in store for one, and maybe we should increase our prayer efforts. Sometimes I sit and ponder for minutes, sometimes hours, about life. So, back to the real life story. It was a lovely Friday afternoon. This happened years ago. It was a lovely Friday afternoon. I wanted to get some things, so I thought about getting to the border since I was close to mile 2, as in the border between Nigeria and Benin Republic. I changed my mind when I saw there was a market at Sele bus stop. If you stay in Lagos, you should know Sele here. So I got down from the bus and I started going around the market searching. In this Hamatan, it was Hamatan period then. It was not a pleasant chore, trust me. The dust was unsettling. I always did love the sights and sounds of a market. I still do. I love it. I went from one seller to the other. I saw a little wooden kiosk looking shop in a corner of the market. I entered inside and I met a pretty woman. She was on the big side but not fat, but she had a really lovely figure. Plump, more like it. You know the kind of figure people go down to do surgery for? Yes. I wasn't paying attention to her initially. Her dressing was like that of every other market woman, but she was neat. She was conversing in Igbo with her neighbor, and I greeted as she responded. She asked me what I wanted. I was taken aback. Her English was the Queen's English. I don't mean the English you hear me speak now. Queen's English, like British English, English. She spoke better than most bankers and call center agents or OAPs and whatnot who were always fake, using this fake irritating accents. Hers was real. It was real. I could not believe my ears. I had to ask her to speak again so I could, ask another question. The accent wasn't funny. It was real. I looked around her shop and wondered what someone who spoke like that was doing in a shack. It was a shack. There was a meat seller beside her and a charcoal seller on the other side, as in like she was in between, you know. So that to me was squalor. It was poverty for the voice I heard. She was wearing a faded wrapper that had seen better days. On her feet were bathroom slippers. Although I noticed her nails were finely pedicured, shall I was lost for words and I looked at her again. I guess she was in her 40s and I turned out to be right in the end. My curiosity antenna, excuse me, not amebo, curiosity. As a writer, I always have questions. And they refused to go back down. My antennas were up. I had to know, I needed to understand. So I sat there. I took my time going through the clothes she had. I like buying, sometimes you find vintage wares in some used clothing, thrift shops. So I could not help looking from the clothes to her. She was even graceful, oh, as in very graceful. Finally, I asked. I told her I liked the way she spoke. She smiled at me and she told me thank you. Well, I wasn't satisfied. I told her she spoke like someone that had lived in the UK. She smiled again. I waited for her to say something. With bated breath, I waited. I hoped she would say something. She finally did. She had this faraway look in her eyes when she told me yes. And like a pit bull with a bone, I continued. I told her, sorry, madam, but I just have to ask you, what are you doing here? She laughed. I liked the way she laughed too. It reminded me of people with class. Then she looked at me. She told me it was a long story. Then she paused. I hoped she would continue. I actually prayed she would continue. And she did. She told me she had schooled in London during the 80s before I was born, obviously. And she laughed again. She said she had been there for 7 years. She had a diploma course before she did a degree course. She came back to Nigeria for the holidays. She was meant to go back. She met a man who wanted to marry her in Nigeria during the holidays. It was during the Christmas holidays. And then more than one actually. She met, you know how it is during, I don't know if you're from the East, but in Nigeria during the East, a lot of people come back during the holidays for Christmas celebrations, and a lot of people go home and lots of girls receive marriage proposals. So yeah, that happened to her. She had a lot of proposals for marriage, but she settled for love. She chose one. And that's, my brothers and sisters, was the beginning of her downhill journey. She could not get a visa to travel back. Then because she had a job waiting for her there. She graduated and she had a job. She applied for a job and she had a job now waiting for her. She just wanted to come home for the holidays, then go back to the UK. It was meant to be easy, but she didn't understand what had happened. She couldn't go back anymore. Her visa was taken away. Well, the husband she settled for love had an okay job, but he never progressed. He wasn't even, what's the word? He didn't have drive. Let's put it that way. Her in-laws insisted that she must not work. They said she was the reason her husband never progressed, that the wife is meant to be submissive and all that. Then she said her loving husband changed all of a sudden and she could not work, so they were living from hand to mouth. Then the worst thing happened. Her original certificates were engulfed in a fire. She could always get in touch with the school, but now, who would take someone without work experience in this country? And since the family refused for her to work and she didn't have her certificates, she was stuck. Then she now told me, my dear, it's all in the past. She has accepted it all as life. Now she owns this place. Yes, it is small, but she has been able to put her children through school with it. Her eldest is in her final year at a federal university in Nigeria. She was struggling hard doing this little business since it was the only one her in-laws and her husband could allow her do. That she's struggling now, so her children will not live the life she has or make the same mistakes she's made with her life. She smiled at me again and continued. She could have avoided all this if she had listened to her mom, not to marry the man or prayed about it. She said her family washed their hands off her, that they later died. They went to the afterlife not long after she got married. Her parents died with her brother, and she was the only one left in the family. She looked at me and she started giving me serious advice. She told me, be careful the kind of company you keep. She also told me I should never let anyone disrespect me and take my life from me. That I needed to be careful to whom I will give my affection to. That your love, you give your affection and love to, they hold power over you. That it should be someone that really deserves me. Before I get married, I should pray seriously. Excuse you, seriously. Yes, that's how we say it in Igbo. That I should pray seriously before I say yes. That some people's destinies, most women's destinies, got stunted because of the kind of husbands they married, even for husbands, kind of wives they married. That whoever you choose to marry can kill your destiny and bring you down, and you never go forward. That some things in life are more spiritual than we think. That man that seems like the perfect choice, that you think loves you and all that, might not be the perfect choice. So you need to be careful as you grow, that a wrong choice of a marital partner can destroy you. As she was saying all this, she was smiling, she wasn't bitter, she wasn't resentful, she smiled all through and only paused briefly to remember with nostalgia. She told me about her stay in London, the fun, the life she had there, the friends she'd made. That was the only time I saw the pain in her eyes. She had it all, but it all disappeared. she said, and her smile came back after that. I wondered, as I left her shop that afternoon, I wish there was something I could do for her. I wondered why she didn't reach out to her friends from school. I thought about a lot of things. There were a lot of questions I wanted to ask, but I just sighed and shook my head, pondering as she waved me goodbye. I just wondered what and how our life could have been if things had turned out differently and why she didn't. It just felt like she had given up. She'd given up on herself and on life. She'd had accepted her faith. Her fate. It was crazy. So, champ, I hope you've learned something from this encounter I had about life. And as usual, I hope my thoughts on this have been able to help you somehow, as imperfect as they are. And do not forget that you're a champ and I love you, but God loves you more. Till next time, this is Bloom with Frances. Bye, champ.